Good afternoon, Rolfin.
Hi, Dean. How you doing?
Doing very well, thank you. Good afternoon, Steve.
Hey Dean, how are you?
Doing very well, thank you. Yes, it's been a full-on day of interviews. You're actually our last for the day. Last but not least, thank you so much for joining me and discussing your film today. Your film is Waving, which features in program 3 online for a week from the 16th to the 24th of September. Rolfin, you're no stranger to Short Focus Film Festival. We hosted your film Two Down, maybe 3 years ago now, which was a wonderful comedy set in a greasy spoon cafe. Our audience absolutely loved that. And this film is obviously very different, and obviously co-directed as well, but very different, different territory that we're in for Waving. Could you just start off by describing the premise of Waving?
I think you should take that one, Steve.
The premise of the film is a journey into the mind of somebody who suffers with intrusive thoughts. So taking traditionally what's viewed as an external mental illness, compulsions, tics, that kind of thing, but revealing the truth of the other side of OCD, which is the horrible intrusive thoughts that cause great pain and damage to people. So the premise is basically that Charlie's at the end of his tether, has gone to this beach contemplating what's next, and we take a journey inside his head to see what's going on, come out the other side, and Charlie has a choice to make. And I won't spoil the film, but it's at the end of the film, it's hopefully more of an upbeat message than downbeat.
And it feels like a very personal film. Why was this story and theme important for you to explore?
Well, I've battled OCD all my life. I can remember it back to about 7 or 8 years old, and then just ramping up from there. And I didn't get diagnosed with it until I was 18. And even then, it was just lumped in with depression, and I was put on Prozac.
And Steve, wasn't it quite interestingly, both you and Catherine found out you had OCD not from like a clinical environment, but through film, wasn't it? You both saw the same documentary, didn't you?
We saw a documentary, that old, it's called QED. It used to be a great documentary. It used to, a couple of weeks before the OCD one, they did Tourette's, and it was like just fascinating. And I was watching this documentary with my parents, and I was like, that's me. That's basically, huge aspects of what I'm going through. And but I didn't even get diagnosed professionally for another sort of 6 years, really. So it is a personal film, but you can't make it too personal. You've got to try and appeal to the universal nature of anxiety and mental health, and not just make it too personal, because then people get lost in the weeds of your own experience. So you've got to try and be as universal as you can.
And isn't it safe to say, if Catherine was here, I know she'd say this, that like both you and her and probably a lot of the OCD community just get sick of OCD being trivialized. I mean, this was something else that was motivating us, wasn't it? That people think it's about the compulsions, think it's about Monica from Friends quipping about a vacuum cleaner or having this obsession with symmetry. And what they don't understand is that OCD is in the DSM. It is a devastating disorder, and fundamentally it's an anxiety disorder. This is what people don't understand. So the surrealist aesthetic in Waving really allowed us to sort of dive into the world of emotions and reveal the feelings behind what the external compulsions are.
Yeah, I think there's never really been, that I've seen, and Catherine, was quick to jump on this. There's never been a display of OCD beyond the kind of having all the cans facing the right way on the shelf, or I want the house to be spotlessly tidy. I've read in
light switches.
And I've read, a BBC Writers' Room recently. Some really established great writers, and actors, and they describe their character. Oh, it's a really fun character to play, but she's a little bit OCD, and it drives me nuts. It just drives me nuts. It's you wouldn't say you're a little bit autistic. You wouldn't say you're a little bit Asperger's. You know, it's not an adjective. It's not a description of a character. It's a proper soul-destroying, life-consuming illness. But you can't make a film that just is too didactic or too trying to whack people around the head and say, look, you're all idiots for not understanding this. So Rolfin and I, and this is where I'll let Rolfin take over, we're both huge surrealism fans. Me personally, I worship at the Church of David Lynch since I saw Blue Velvet, and Rolfin is an incredible artist, poet, painter, and loves surrealism as well. So we wanted to give the film this surrealist aesthetic, whilst being true to the condition.
Yeah, and that's it, Stephen. Like we wanted to make a piece of cinema. We weren't looking to make a public service announcement, were we?
No.
Yeah, and you've done a great job, I think, establishing something new, a new way to kind of see the disorder, and treating it with care and not in that, kind of flippant way, obviously with your own experiences with it. It's really important that people do, see it in the right way, but also in an expressive way as well. And I really think that comes across. The film's title kind of comes from that tide or beach analogy or environment, which is used throughout most of the film, and also paired with the airwaves of the television transmissions that serve as an internal signal for Charlie. Why did you choose this symbolism and these milieux to depict his condition?
This. We've both got a story here, haven't we, Steve?
Yeah.
Mine's quick, so I'll give mine and then I'll hand over to Steve. So when Steve first mentioned waving, I thought of the Stevie Smith poem, not waving but drowning. But Steve, you had an original, your own.
I mean, once you mentioned that to me, Rolfin, it just became. It must have been. I know that poem. It must have been in my subconscious, when I came up with that. But it's as simple as me, is that I find the sound of crashing waves, lapping waves, incredibly therapeutic. I know loads of people do. So every night I have a lecture on the sound of waves lapping on a beach, and it was just for me, it was just that sort of place where you go to seek solace because of the sounds. But when Rolfin said about the poem, the penny just dropped, and I thought, yeah, Christ, that's really a much better explanation to give people.
But it sounds like it was meant to be anyway. I mean, if it's coming,
that's a good way to look at it. Yeah. It was interesting. It was interesting you said about the TV waves and the radio waves. Rolfin and I have never spoken about that, or don't think the penny dropped with that. But it's always interesting to me when somebody else takes something from a film that we hadn't thought of. So that's quite cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
Oh, awesome. I'm glad I could bring something. I was just trying to be clever, I suppose. Maybe I read too much.
No, it works.
Great. Love it.
I suppose it does work.
That's the thing with surrealist films, isn't it? Good surrealism, you can interpret so many different things. Like Lynch always says, he refuses to give explanations to any of his work and just lets everybody just we're not as oblique as that or as obtuse as that, but I think surrealism is it's just good surrealism is a real adventure. You go into it and you're like trying to pick out the meanings and talk about it. And I'm not saying we are good surrealism, but that's what you want from that kind of thing. Yeah,
I mean, my impression is that most people will kind of take their own kind of impressions from it, with the way that it's set up and explored. I think another thing that many people will notice when they first watch this film is Ralph Ineson. How did he get involved in this project?
Oh man, he's phenomenal, that guy. Yeah. He really is. I mean, to watch his craft up close, he's such a great actor. But I mean, it was there's a note of hope here, I think, for other filmmakers out there. I mean, Steve and I worked quite hard on the script, didn't we? It must have been, I don't know, 30 versions, something. We were really sort of pouring over it. Got the treatment done, sent it in to his agent on a Friday. She said, "Okay, I'll send it to him." I guess he had the weekend off. That weekend he read it and he came back on the Monday and just said, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it." But obviously it was COVID and we had to wait around for him. But I mean, you can tell from the performance, like it's 100% worth the wait. But what's funny about it is when Steve and I were spitballing about the casting, I remember Steve, you just said Ralph Ineson, this is, and it was like, oh my God, yes, that would be amazing. And but you never expect to get him. Like he was like from minute one.
It was off the back of The Witch, wasn't it? We both saw The Witch and we just thought, wow, you know, that's a whole different side of him that audiences have never seen.
Yeah.
And we wanted to push that even further. And I think he appreciated that the part was minimal dialogue and a lot of emoting and a lot of internalization.
He said as much at the costume. We were like, why did you take it? And he said, well, this is like, it's a film actor's role. I mean, Dean, there was one shot, we had him on quite a wide lens, literally inches from his face. The camera's right there. And it ran for 6 minutes. And like like his concentration, his discipline is just amazing. Just didn't drop for like for a femtosecond for like 6 minutes. And like the crew were all behind Steve and I looking at the monitors, and it was just spine tingling good, and the crew just spontaneously, you know, erupted into applause.
Yeah, I can imagine you could just feel that all in the room, you know, just watching an absolute master at his craft, and really comes through on the screen as well. So,
I think, you know, we were so lucky, but I think, like Rolfin said, for other short filmmakers out there, don't be afraid to try and punch above your weight with what you've written, because, you know, so many short films have brilliant scripts and stuff like that, and unfortunately, sometimes a performance can unravel, you know, the weight and the meaning of a film, you know. So always try and go, you know, try and be ambitious, try and be lofty in who you can get into the film, because like Rolfin said, you know, if you write a part like that and the person's got time, you know, you never know what can happen. You know, you just never know what can happen.
Sure, always worth a try.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
because they elevate the content, and they bring a kudos to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the film brilliantly tackles moral issues and is very careful not to blame or justify some of the acts that are revealed as the film progresses. The film feels, you know, really sympathetic, as we, you know, explored earlier. It's very sympathetic and recognizes complexities and characteristics of OCD that are not commonly understood. How easy or difficult did you find it to portray a balanced but unflinching view of this condition?
I think it's easy with honesty, isn't it? Like, I mean, going back to Ralph, like, you know, he's got great awareness and compassion. I mean, obviously he doesn't have OCD himself, you know, but you know, I think if you have compassion for the fact that, you know, like we're apes, right? Like we're not like these noble creatures, and intrusive thoughts can happen to people with OCD. So like if you're running away from that, then it becomes difficult to talk about, let alone portray. And you know, so we were very lucky to, not just in front of the camera but behind the camera, to have like truly lovely, emotionally intelligent people, and that energy, that environment on set helps you to get the best out of everyone, I think.
I just believe that when you're writing something like this, there's no point in anything other than honest, and sometimes that can be brutally honest. But, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean the film is brutal. You show the moments that are the most devastating to people with the condition, but you also try to educate the people without the condition, that, like you said, not to judge. You know, the thoughts that these people have can be some of the most heinous, horrible thoughts that you could even consider, you know, you would consider, but they're not going to act on them. They don't act on them. So, you know, it's about that understanding why when you see somebody with OCD, why they might be having a difficult time, you know, because it's internalized. It's an internalized illness as much as it is about, you know, and totally valid about the compulsions that you do externally. I've still got hundreds of external compulsions.
Yeah. But, I think the film really does, you know, effectively kind of blurs the internal and external realities, you know, causing Charlie to become increasingly isolated and withdrawn from the world, and struggling to live in his own head as well. What's actually been the response to your film from other people living with OCD?
I mean, it's been for me personally heart-wrenching. I mean, if anyone watches the film and they feel that they're affected or their family might be or friends, if you go to www.wavingfilm.com, there's a guest book there. And I remember when we were in Sitges, Steve, for the premiere, and I was reading the guest book. I hadn't read it for a while, and I was welling up on the beach reading it. I've actually sent some screenshots to my dad. He was getting a bit tearful. My father helped with the carpentry on set, but it's just projects like this don't come along too often, and there's a lot of solace, is what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's been overwhelmingly positive. Is the only way really to describe it. People just saying, look, thank you for sort of telling the truth. Thank you for showing something that is I can connect with. Thank you for doing something that I experience. Is what's the most sort of satisfying, feedback for us.
I couldn't agree more. Like the case in point, Dean, like a mother there saying, I didn't understand what was going on with my daughter. And although I won't understand OCD, having seen the film, it kind of helps give me a bit more of a frame of reference. I mean, yeah, projects like this don't come along too often, I don't think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. And, we're very proud to also be able to share your film with our audience and hope as many people as possible get to see it. What can we see from both of you next?
It's actually the tab is open on my laptop at the moment. We're working on a full-length feature film that's nothing to do with OCD. Won't say too much about it, but we're hoping to make something again,
sure,
a bit more mainstream, but with the core surrealist elements that we like. A bit Ari Aster kind of. That's a lofty goal, but we're striving.
It's a great point of reference for sure. Well, yeah, and I take it you're both working on that project together.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, look, I wish you the best of luck with your feature project, and of course with this on the festival circuit as well. Again, really, really proud to share it with our audience. Thank you so much for sharing it with us as well. Again, it screens online as part of Programme 3 from the 16th to the 24th of September. Rolfin, Steve, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Take care, and I'll be.
No worries. Thank you so much.
All the best.
Thanks, Dean. Cheers.
See ya. Bye.